Okay, so today we're going to show you how to oil a table using Circa 1850 Tung Oil. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the table is clean so that when the oil goes on here it dries and cures properly. So we're going to start with the furniture cleaner, and I'm just going to put a little bit of it onto a rag. And I'm going to wipe the surface of the table down. You want to remove all the dirt and if there's any buildup of grime or oils or food or whatever it happens to be that's on the surface. You want to make sure that's all completely off so that when you eventually put the oil on, it will go on beautifully and there won't be any problem. So the table is actually fairly clean. There's not a lot of stuff on here. This table was not waxed. If it was waxed previously, you'd want to make sure that all of the wax or polish was removed from the surface. So that's going to probably take maybe a second application of the furniture cleaner. It's okay if you spill a little bit onto the table. This is going to remove all the dirt, and once it's done, then you can go ahead and put the oil on. I'm also doing the sides because I'm going to oil the sides of the table. So if you look at the table, it's got a little bit of a shine to it now, and that's just the cleaner on top. That will quite quickly evaporate off of the surface. So you want to check your rag every once in a while just to make sure that it's still clean. If it starts getting really dirty, you might want to replace it with another rag so that when you're done with the final cleaning, your rag should be clean and there should be nothing on the surface. This is a solid maple table, but this furniture cleaner can be used on any surface, on any wood, whether the wood is finished or not finished. It won't affect the finish, so if this had a varnish on it, or an oil finish, or even a shellac, furniture cleaner would simply clean the surface, but it would not damage the underlying finish. It won't harm any veneers or anything like that. So this is quite clean now. My rag is very clean. If this was new wood, I might want to sand it to make sure that it's smooth, because the Tung Oil doesn't really build on the surface. So you want to make sure that your surface is very smooth to begin with. But because this wood has already been planed and sanded, there's no need to do that. So this is all set. I can wait it if I wanted to before putting on the Tung Oil, but I think I'm going to put it on right now. So this is the Tung Oil, Circa 1850 Tung Oil, and Tung Oil is actually an oil that comes from a nut tree, generally from China, but now they're also farmed in South America. And this Tung Oil is diluted in mineral spirits to make it easier to apply. Allows it to penetrate a little bit more into the wood, and allows it to dry quicker. There's no varnishes in here. There's no urethanes, polyurethanes. This is simply raw Tung Oil in a consistency that allows you to apply it to the surface. So product is it's fairly thin. It's a little bit thicker than the cleaner, but it's a liquid almost like water. Has a slight amber color to it, but very, very slight. You're not going to notice it once you put it onto the wood. Tung oil, raw tung oil like this is, needs to be applied very thin. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some onto our rag, and we're just putting a very small amount onto the rag, and we're simply going to rub it onto the surface. So we're not going to flood the surface. We're simply going to put on a thin coat. And you can see where the oil's gone on. It gets a little bit more of a sheen to it. It's better to apply a thinner coat than a thicker coat. If you apply a coat of tung oil too thick, it can sometimes cause the finish to get hazy, which you will then have to sand off. So for tung oil and all drying oils like teak oil, tongue and teak oil, linseed oil, they all need to be applied very thin, and make sure that you don't over apply them, because or else you can run into problems. We're going to put this on. We're going to make sure that there's just a small coat on the entire surface. Get rid of this now, and then we're going to let it dry. We're going to let it dry for about 24 hours. After 24 hours, we'll come back. We might give it a very light buffing with some very fine steel wool or very fine sandpaper, just in case there was some imperfections in the wood or in the finish that we want to eliminate. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to apply another very thin coat of tung oil. Probably, not sure if you can see with the camera, but the surface is quite uniform. There's no real shiny spots. It's just kind of a satiny look to it. With some woods, such as mahogany and walnut, sometimes the oil will seep into the wood and then come back out of the wood after about 15-20 minutes. It comes out of the pores again. So you want to take your same rag and just kind of wipe the surface down after about 15 minutes. For maple, that's not necessary. This is all going to penetrate into the wood and just give a very, very thin coat of tung oil on top of it. So that's basically it. These rags, you need to make sure that you air them out to dry. The oil in the rag can catch on fire if you clump it up and leave it in a closed space. So after you're done with tung oil, just take your rag, open up, let it air dry somewhere, or if you want, you can put it into a bucket of water and let it sit there, and eventually just throw it out. So that's it. This is how to tung oil a table, and thank you very much.